What's up, guys? Welcome back to Savage Rounds with Xavier. This is episode 23. Today for you, I've got the UFC 292 predictions and bets video. This card is sick. I'm a huge Suga Sean O'Malley fan, so I've been waiting for this one for a while. I'm also a big Aljo fan. I've rooted for him in every fight up until this one, so this one it was a little tough, but I'll definitely be siding with Suga on this one. And then co-main event, Zhang versus Lemos. That'll be an absolute banger for the world title. Let's get into it. No fancy graphics today, but we'll get those back soon. Kicking off the night, we've got Karine Silva versus Marina Moroz at women's flyweight. Silva is 29 years old, 16-4, 5'5", and has a 67-inch reach. Marina Moroz is 31, 11-4, 5'7", and has a 67-inch reach as well. These girls fought quite some time ago. We can pull it up actually. Let's see. So the first time they fought was back in 2014. So it's been quite some time. It was Karine Silva's debut, if I'm not mistaken. And Marina Moroz had a few fights at that point. At this time now, I'm going with Karine Silva in this one. I think she'll be able to get her ground game going. She has some solid takedowns, a great jiu-jitsu game, especially on top. She's dangerous, good ground and pound, and also on the feet, she definitely won't be putting out more output than Marina Moroz. That's where Marina Moroz can really get her best work done, and obviously she's got very good submissions as well. That's how she finished Karine Silva in their first fight, so Silva obviously has to watch out for that. But on the feet, Moroz can get the volume going, and that would be her biggest advantage in this fight. But on the feet for Karine Silva, I think she can land big, impactful shots. Like I said, obviously the volume won't be on her side, but I do think there's a chance for her to damage Marina Moroz on the feet. And then, like I said, I really do favor her in this fight on the ground. I think she can get in good positions on top and win minutes. And obviously she's a finisher for sure in this division. So I believe she'll be working for the finish, whether it's ground and pound or working for that submission. But I do think she gets it done. She can win minutes. She's looking for the finish always. So she'll be my pick. Bet-wise, the under 2.5 is sitting at -130 right now. Karine Silva is sitting at -155, and Silva inside the distance is sitting at +165. I probably won't end up betting this fight. There's like money line, probably not, but I do think there's a small chance I take the over the under 2.5 at -130, and I may parlay it with the next fight's under just for a little bet. I do that sometimes with a couple of the fights I think could go under, but it won't be a serious bet or anything. And then Silva inside the distance isn't looking too bad either if you're on the same side, but not really strong feelings betting wise towards this one. Next up, another women's flyweight bout. We've got Andrea Lee taking on Natalia Silva. Andrea Lee is 34 years old, 13-7, 5'6" with a 69.5-inch reach. Natalia Silva, 26 years old, 15-5-1, 5'4", and she's got a 65-inch reach. This fight is an interesting one. Obviously, Andrea Lee's talented. She's got good submission skills. She's a solid fighter on the feet as well. But she's 34 years old. She's 2-3 in her last 5, and she hasn't looked like she's at her peak anymore. She's kind of on the down, I'd say. She had her moments in her last 2 fights. She lost to Macy Barber and Viviana Rougeau in her last 2. She had moments, but overall, it's just she's not at her peak anymore. Natalia Silva, 26 years old. I feel like she's coming into her prime. She's looked really good in her last few fights. She debuted and beat Jasmine Jastovicius, which at this point is a win that ages really well. She's in the top 15 at the moment, and she's fighting up in the rankings in her next fight. And I think Natalia Silva just has the skills to beat her wherever she wants to take it. She's a solid grappler if she's on the offense. She's got solid takedown defense as well, and on the feet, we know how quick and slick her Muay Thai is. Sorry, I just took a drink. And I'm picking Natalia Silva for all those reasons. On the feet, I think she can win it. If she goes for takedowns, I think she can get those and do damage from on top. And even if Andrea Lee decides to shoot takedowns, I believe Natalia Silva can stop them. So I will be picking her in this one. I do think the under 2.5 sitting at plus 160 isn't a bad look. Natalia Silva, I believe she's finished her last 2 fights. Yeah, both knockout finishes. She had third round spinning back kick against Teresa Bleda, and then she caught Victoria Leonardo with a few good shots. Obviously, Victoria Leonardo isn't the most talented opponent, but it is what it is. I talked about the under sitting at plus 160. I think if you could have gotten her a bit earlier, Natalia Silva, not a bad parlay piece, even at minus 330 right now. I do really think she gets this one done. I really think she's better everywhere, so it's not a bad parlay piece, but you could have gotten it a bit earlier in the week for better odds. So that's not a horrible parlay piece. And then Silva inside the distance sitting at plus 145. I may take a shot at the under. The under's plus 2.5. I guess there could be a late third round finish, or plus 2.5. What does that even mean? The under 2.5 sitting at plus 160. So I think if I was going to take a shot at Silva inside the distance or the under, it would be the under instead, just because it's a bit better odds. And like I said, maybe there's a late third round finish, but I feel like Natalia can put it on her within the first 2, I would assume. Next up, on the early prelims, the last early prelim, Andre Petroski versus Gerald Meerschaert. Petroski is 32 years old, 9'2", 6 feet tall, and he has a 73-inch reach. Gerald Meerschaert, 35 years old, 35'16", 6'1", with a 77.5-inch reach. Let's see, I can't remember who Andre Petroski just fought. Wellington Turman, that's right. Unanimous decision. Gerald Meerschaert coming off of that knockout loss to Joe Pyfer. I do think this is a spot where you have to betting-wise, you have to automatically bet Gerald Meerschaert. Third round submission, maybe even a sprinkle on the second as well. But, yeah, Andre Petroski on the feet, he swings big bombs, and I think if he could land, there could be a club and sub situation just because he's got the big power, and who knows how durable Meerschaert is at this point, and he just got knocked out. But primarily, Petroski is a wrestler. Like I said, it's big power on the feet, but the striking's not that clean. He wings big shots. It's not awful. It's okay, but the wrestling is where he thrives. He's going to look for takedowns. He wants ground and pound. He wants submissions. And taking down Gerald Meerschaert, there's always going to be that danger of him finding the last-minute sub after getting beat up for 3 rounds somehow. I do think the most likely situation is Petroski catches him on the feet and submits him with one of those big shots, or he wrestles and is able to stay safe for 3 rounds and win a decision. I think maybe he could find ground and pound as well. I think TKO is more likely than the sub for him, to be honest. So I will be picking him to win, but betting-wise, I'm not touching this fight other than, like I said, there's got to be a little sprinkle on GM3 round 3 submission. He's sitting at plus 1,100 right now. The round 2 is plus 950. So there will be a tiny little sprinkle on that, but other than that, no real bets at all. Next up, we've got the 2 Ultimate Fighter finales, the bantamweight finale between Brad Katona and Cody Gibson, and then the lightweight finale versus Kurt Hollabaugh and Austin Hubbard. They did, prospects versus vets this year. I think it was an awful theme, especially the way they ended up setting it up. They didn't mix in the guys and let them all fight each other throughout. It was literally vets versus prospects, so it was teams of 135-pound vet, 135-pound prospects, same with 155 pounds, and then they fought each other that way. I think they should have just mixed them up and let the teams pick that way. I mean, who knows if the results would have been different? Probably not, but regardless, we've got 2 finals, 4 vets. I can't say I'm super interested. The season was super boring, so I don't really have too much to say about these fights. There's not a chance I'll be betting on them, but I'll just give you my picks. I'm going to go for the Bantamweight finale. I'm going Brad Katona. I think he'll be a little bit less wild and a little bit cleaner with his striking. Obviously, he's going to look to push Gibson up against the fence for a little bit and look for control time and maybe find a takedown as well. I just look for him to be a bit steadier over the 3 rounds and find the decision. And then in the lightweight finale, I'm going with the younger Austin Hubbard. I think if he wants to, he'll look for takedowns here. I think he can get that going. And then Kurt Hollabaugh, obviously he's got solid power in the hands. He likes to come forward. He's throwing big hooks. I think Austin Hubbard can get behind the jab, work that. I think he'll be a little bit faster than Kurt Hollabaugh. And I think he can fight behind the jab, win minutes on the feet, and find takedowns as well, win minutes on the ground. I think both will probably end up in decisions. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I'm not super invested, and I don't have too big of an opinion, so it is what it is. I will go with Katona and Hubbard, though, as my winners. Like I said, no betting. Next up, Gregory Rodriguez RoboCop versus Dennis Tululin. Gregory Rodriguez is 31 years old, 13-5, 6'3", 75-inch reach. Dennis Tululin is 35 years old, 11-7, 6'1", 77-inch reach. Gregory Rodriguez should win this fight. He's better everywhere. He's the more technical striker. He's also got big power on the feet. He's got solid jiu-jitsu. I think if he wanted to, he could find takedowns here as well. Although Dennis Tululin's takedown defense hasn't been awful inside the octagon. But the problem is, who knows where Gregory Rodriguez's durability is at this point. He got bonked pretty hard in his last fight. Tululin hits real hard. He's been knocked out 3 times in total. 31 years old. It's not a good look, and obviously Tululin has also been finished on the ground, which is where I think Gregory Rodriguez will have his biggest advantage. I don't think Tululin is a good grappler at all, and RoboCop, like I said, jiu-jitsu-wise, will have a huge advantage, so I think he can get that done. Obviously, Tululin's been finished on the feet before as well. The only issue, like I said, RoboCop should win this. He is better in all aspects of fighting, but Dennis Tululin does have big power, and he likes to come forward and throw wild. So I think if RoboCop goes out there and strikes, there's a chance Tululin could bonk him and knock him out. But my pick's Gregory Rodriguez. He is, like I've said it 4 times already, he's the better fighter everywhere. And he's got big power on the feet too. I do think he gets the finish. We could see a club and sub. We could just see a knockout. He could shoot takedowns because he's trying to be safe because he got knocked out in his last fight and Tululin's got big power. He could find the sub from the takedowns. I do think Gregory Rodriguez finds the finish in this one. Betting wise, I don't know. I know Tululin KO. I looked at that. That was sitting at like plus 425. The under 1.5 is minus 180. Rodriguez inside the distance is minus 210. All the safer, or the more likely outcomes, I think, with Rodriguez winning are kind of juiced at this point, even with the finishes being inside the distance, or even with the finishing odds. And with the opportunity for Dennis Tululin to knock him out, I will probably just stay away. There's no real interest from me here. And then the final prelim, the feature prelim, the return of Chris Weidman. He took quite a long layoff in between. Oh no, it had only been a year. I thought it was longer for some. Oh, not even a year. A few months actually. What, 8 months in between the Akhmedov fight and Uriah Hall. For some reason, I thought it was longer than that off the top of my head. But he gets that unanimous decision victory over Akhmedov. Goes out, first kick he throws against Uriah Hall. Uriah checks it, and Chris Weidman's leg snapped. Same exact deal that happened to Anderson Silva. What was the date of that fight? That was 2021. April 2021. We're now in August of 2023. It's been over 2 years. He had reconstructive surgery. He had to learn how to walk again. He probably wasn't supposed to fight again, just with that injury. but somehow by a miracle he's been cleared. All the hardships he went through, he fought through it, and now he's here. He can fight again. He's taking on Brad Tavares in his return to the octagon. Chris Weidman, 39 years old, so who knows how his body responded to all that, and in a fight situation, it'll be interesting too. 15-6, 6'2", 78-inch reach. Brad Tavares, 35 years old, 19-9, 6'1", 74-inch reach. I do think Chris Weidman is going to come out super, super, super wrestling heavy, just because of the sort of damage he's taken on his body, and who knows how he's going to react to it. So I do see him coming out with quite a heavy wrestling game plan. And Brad Tavares has solid takedown defense. I think that could cause a lot of problems for Chris Weidman. And I know Brad Tavares on the feet isn't super dangerous himself, but he is a solid technical striker. I think he'll be able to defend takedowns and just win minutes over 3 rounds on the feet. Maybe he finds a finish. I don't really know. Betting wise, I'm staying away from this one too. But basing it off of the question marks around Chris Weidman right now, I think he's going to come out wrestling heavy, and I think Brad Tavares can stuff those and win minutes on the feet. Not too compelled by it though, so betting wise, I'm probably going to stay away. The only things I wrote down are the over 2.5 sitting at -102. I do think we see a decision. I think either way there's probably a decision, even if Chris Weidman's able to come out and implement his game plan. And then fight goes the distance is sitting at +110 too. So if you like that fight to go the distance, maybe that's not a bad play for you. Next up, kicking off the main card, we've got a banger. Marlon Chito Vera taking on Pedro Munoz, the Young Punisher. Awful nickname. Marlon Vera is 30 years old, 28-1, 5'8", 70.5-inch reach. Pedro Munoz, 36 years old, 20-7, 5'6", 65-inch reach. This is a really interesting fight because we saw how Marlon Vera looked against Cheeto. He is Cheeto. We saw how Marlon Vera looked against Corey Sandhagen. He wasn't able to stand up. He wasn't able to stop takedowns. It was a really rough night for him. He lost, I'd say, pretty much all 5 rounds. I guess you could argue 1 for him. One of the judges somehow scored the fight to Cheeto, which was ridiculous, but it is what it is. Pedro, I believe, he did fight again after that Sean fight, and he won. It was, the Chris Gutierrez fight. That was a really good performance from him. Gutierrez wasn't really to get much of his own offense off. And it was a solid win for Pedro Munoz. I did think he was going to lose that one. I thought Chris Munoz would be able to deal with the leg kicks better and dish out some of his own. And that's kind of what I'm thinking for this fight. Marlon Vera is a solid leg kick checker. I think he's going to be able to check those leg kicks. And on the feet, obviously we know he's a fantastic striker, as is Pedro Munoz. But I think the length and the height advantage could cause some issues with Pedro Munoz trying to get inside. When Munoz jumps inside, Marlon Vera likes to clinch. I think we could see him throwing a lot of knees and elbows from inside the clinch when Munoz gets inside, and obviously at distance, we know how good of a striker Marlon Vera is. I don't really think we'll see too much grappling here, but yeah, I'm going with Cheeto. I think, obviously, all those points I just said, and I think he knows he needs to come out more aggressive. He can't sit and wait like he has in some fights recently, and he can't have another performance like that Corey Sandhagen fight. So I'm going with Marlon Chito Vera. I do think there's a possibility for him to find the finish. I don't think Pedro Munoz has ever been finished. Yeah, never. 5 wins by TKO, 8 by sub. So obviously that's a tough task, but we know how hard Chito Vera hits. We know how much of a savage he is, so that's definitely a possibility. And the lines are kind of crazy on it, so there's definitely a chance I'll take a shot at it. The under 2.5 is sitting at +300, which I do think a decision is a huge possibility here. Marlon Vera could, like all the same things I said, clinch when he gets inside and win with damage there. When they're on the outside, I think he can strike at range, and it'll be trouble for Munoz to deal with it. I think he can check leg kicks and deal out his own kicks. And with Munoz's toughness, that could definitely result in a decision. But with the under 2.5 sitting at plus 300 and the fight involving Chito Vera, I think there's a solid chance that goes under. So I might take a shot at that. Chito Vera inside the distance plus 325. If you're on the same side as me with Chito Vera, that's not a bad look. Just because of I feel like the value on it. Like Chito Vera is always live for a finish, and then I do favor Cheeto quite a bit. I really think he gets the bounce back fight here. I think he knows there's a big opportunity for him if he can win this fight, and if Sean wins his fight, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I think he's gonna come out and hunt for that finish hard, and I think he'll fight a good fight. So that money line set at minus 207. I don't hate it for parlays. If you could have gotten it a bit earlier at minus 175, if you're on the same side as me, that's just a solid straight money line play as well. But minus 207 at the moment, not bad if you like parlays. I'm going with Cheeto. I really like him. I think he gets this victory. Bounce back. Next up, Damon Blackshear, Mario Bautista. Damon Blackshear saved this fight. Mario Bautista was supposed to take on... what's his name? No love. Cody Garbrandt. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. He was supposed to take on Cody Garbrandt. He couldn't make it into the octagon this weekend. Damon Blackshear fought last weekend. Got the first round submission over debuting on short notice Jose Johnson with only the third submission victory in UFC history. So it was pretty sick to see. I think I've seen 2 of the 3 twisters live, watching them on TV. Not obviously in person, but just like watching the event live, 2 of 3. And yeah, I think he steps in to replace Cody. Cody saves the fight, and it's crazy. He'll be the second fighter to take on 2 fights in 7 days. The other one being Lupe Godinez. Kamzat, I think, did it in 10 days, so not quite 7, but very impressive from Damon Blackshear, and ballsy too. Damon Blackshear, 29 years old, 14-5-1 after last weekend, adding another win to the win column. 5'10", 72-inch reach. Mario Bautista, 30 years old, 12-2, 5'9", 69-inch reach. And I didn't say it before, but this is taking place at Bantamweight, so Blackshear getting no leniency from Bautista on the weight here. Not like I don't know. I mean, I don't expect it from Bautista, but jumping it up to 145 or 140 even, I feel like that happens quite a bit when guys take short notice fights. But I mean, I don't expect it from Bautista. If you're gonna take the fight, why should I have to go up a weight class? I mean, yeah, good for Bautista, but I would have assumed they would have had it at 140, but it is what it is, whatever. On short notice, Blackshear, he looks like he's a really muscular, big, strong guy for the weight class, and you can just see it looking at him. So who knows how much he blew up. Obviously, we are relatively early in the week still. I'm recording this on Wednesday, and I think the fight got announced on Monday. So who knows when the deal was signed. He probably wasn't. He obviously hadn't gotten as big as he can get, so it's a better place to start weight cutting. But obviously 2 weight cuts in a week, not great. And against a guy like Mario Bautista, how tough he is, how good of a fighter he is everywhere, I think that could pose a really big problem for Blackshear. I think he will have trouble getting this fight to the ground. Mario Bautista is a great grappler. And on the feet, I think Blackshear, he's an okay, solid striker, but I think Mario Bautista is just more dangerous on the feet, more of a creative striker, and I like him to get this one done with the short notice implications as well. I do think that plays a big part, but kind of because of the short notice nature of it, Bautista obviously this is a completely different type of opponent to Cody Garbrandt, so he wasn't preparing for a guy who's going to come out and try and get him to the ground. He was preparing to strike and maybe wrestle himself. Or obviously wrestle himself. He always does. But I don't think he was preparing to defend takedowns. So it's a completely different style of fight. Betting-wise, I'll just be staying away because of the unknowns. Blackshear on short notice. Mario Bautista preparing for a completely different style. But pick-wise, I'm going Bautista. I like him to get this one done. Both of these guys are great fighters. I really do like them both. Next up, welterweight, Neil Magny, Ian Gary, another short notice step in. Not as short notice as Damon Blackshear, but I think it was announced last week or maybe late the week before. Ian Gary was supposed to be taking on Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal not able to make it into the octagon. Neil Magny stepping in on short notice. Magny is 36 years old, 28-11, 6'3", with an 80-inch reach. Ian Gary is 25 years old, undefeated, 12-0, 6'3" as well, and he's got a 74.5-inch reach. I feel like they're just at different places in their career. Even though Neil Magny has been referred to as the gatekeeper for a while, I think right now specifically he really is. He's not going to be as fast as Ian Gary. He's not nearly as good or creative of a striker as Ian Gary. And I think Ian Gary's too good of a fighter, too strong to be held up against the cage. I think Neil will have trouble getting him to the ground. I just feel like Ian Gary's going to dominate this fight, especially on short notice. Jeff Neal was definitely the tougher fight. It is a tough spot for Neil Magny. I feel like he's going to struggle to pose issues and problems for Ian Gary in this fight. So for that reason, I really like Ian Gary in this one. Betting wise, it says right here on ESPN Plus minus 490. My local book, he's sitting at like minus 525. The under 2.5 is sitting at plus 150 or plus 155. No, the under 2.5 is sitting at plus 135, and Ian Gary inside the distance is like minus 170. So I'm not really quite sure how that works, but if for some reason in your book it has the under 2.5 at plus money, I would take that. I think Ian Gary's gonna run through Neil Magny. I think this will be relatively easy for him. I just struggle to see where Neil Magny poses a problem for him. So yeah, I mean, Ian Gary I don't know, maybe earlier in the week or last week when Ian Gary was like lower minus 400s or high minus 3 something, that isn't a bad parlay spot at all. I got him early last week and I have him in a parlay. I believe I got him. Let me see. I can pull it up real quick. I do think he's going to win. I'm picking him to win. So minus 500 for a parlay piece is a little bit crazy. So I don't know how I would feel about that. But yeah. Oh, I was checking whatever. We don't have to check. That would take too long. Next up, co-main event. I'm real excited for this one as well. Zhang Weili taking on Amanda Lemos. Obviously, we know what both of these girls bring. Zhang Weili very well rounded, a ferocious volume, power striker. She's really solid everywhere. Solid offensive wrestling as well. She can be taken down. We saw that versus Rose, but Rose is a really good grappler herself. I do think. I'm breaking it down. I haven't even read their stats yet. Zhang Weili, 34 years old, 23-3, 5'4", 63-inch reach. Amanda Lemos, 36 years old, 13, 2-1, 5'4", 65-inch reach. I think we know Amanda Lemos is going to come in trying to take off Zhang Weili's head, and I just think Zhang Weili has too many tools and she's too skilled to let that happen. I think on the feet, Zhang Weili will be really fast, and it'll be tough for Lemos to connect with those big hooks. I think Zhang Weili can get inside. It's not like the reach difference is too much, but obviously Zhang Weili will be jumping in to throw strikes, and I think she can successfully do that. She can move around, avoid big strikes, get inside, land some of her own, and I also think she'll be able to land her own takedowns. I really like those takedowns for her. She's continued to improve her grappling. We've seen it each fight. She's working with a really good camp as well. And I think the submission's live for her, to be honest. I really think she'll go for a sub here. She knows the dangers of striking with Lemos, and obviously she's a good striker herself. I do think she will go out and strike with Lemos, but I do think a big part of her game plan is going to be wrestling and looking for that submission, and I do think she can find it. I'm going Zhang Weili in this one. I really do like her in this fight. Betting wise, what do I have written down? The under 3.5 is sitting at minus 205. If Lemos catches her, it's probably early. So I don't think that's bad. And Weili, I really think can cause a lot of issues for Lemos and put a barrage on her and get her out of there. I don't know if I'll be touching the under 3.5 just because it's at minus 205. That's a big number. We've seen Weili go the distance versus Rose. Is that her only fight going the distance in the UFC? Oh no, she went the distance with Joanna as well. Oh yeah, I was at that fight. Yeah, that was the crazy fight of the year. And then just so happened to have the most boring main event right after Adesanya Romero. But the card in general was crazy. It was actually funny enough talking about it. It was the return of Suga Sean O'Malley from his 2-year hiatus. But yeah, Zhang Weili. Oh, I was talking about odds. That's right. So the under 3.5, I do think we see a finish, but it's a little juiced at minus 205 for me. Weili 320. I do think she wins if you trust her. It's not a bad parlay piece, but Lemos is dangerous. She's got big power in the hand. She could land. And Weili's been knocked out before. We've seen it. Weili inside the distance, minus 185. Like I said, I do think she finds the finish, but 185 is a little high for me to lay down. And then Weili submission sitting at plus 325. I'll probably just sprinkle on that a little bit. I do think she can find the sub. Main event. I'm so excited for this one. I don't even know what to say. I'm stuttering, but one of the biggest fights of the year. I really love both these guys. I'm a big fan of both of these guys. Aljamain wrestled at my parents' college, and that's why they're such big fans of him. So we've always been rooting for him. And Sean O'Malley. My first live UFC event was that Adesanya versus Romero, and I got to see him knock out Jose Quinones in his return with the head kick, and that made me a pretty big fan from there on out, I'd say. I hadn't watched him before that, but getting to see him come back live, it was pretty sick, and getting the finish, and I've followed him on social media. I like his podcast, his YouTube. I'm talking about a lot of stuff that's not inside the cage, though, so all that doesn't matter. Aljamain Sterling, 34 years old, 23-3, 5'7", 71-inch reach. Sean O'Malley, 28 years old, 16-1, 5'11", 72-inch reach. O'Malley looked good in his victory over Peter Yan. It was a tough fight. He needed a tough fight. I thought he won rounds 1 and 2. I know. Sorry. The ESPN little commercial came on. He fought through some adversity in that fight. We saw him get dropped. We saw him have to defend wrestling. He talked about how he wasn't prepared for wrestling in that fight. He said it was a mistake, and he should always be expecting that. The way he strikes, he can turn people into wrestlers, but he was expecting Peter to go toe-to-toe with him for 3 rounds in kickbox. So he had a little bit more trouble than he expected with the wrestling there. But other than that, he looked good. He dropped Peter, the only guy to drop Peter in the UFC, and probably outside as well. And then, obviously, on the other side, Aljamain Sterling, the greatest bantamweight of all time. He's been on a complete tear. And ever since that fight against Peter Yan, where he gassed out early and was taking a beating and then got a legal knee and won the belt that way, ever since then, he's looked unstoppable. Nobody's been able to really cause issues for him. I know the Peter fight was close and the Henry fight was close, but I thought he won both of those 3 rounds to 2, and it was pretty easy to see in both of them. And then obviously against TJ, I know he had one arm, but Aljo dispatched of him fairly easily. In this fight, I know it's going to be unpopular, and a lot of people are just going to, all the people that pick Sean O'Malley, it's mostly going to be the people that support him outside the cage as well. And, I don't know, I think people are going to call me a bandwagon on Twitter especially, but it is what it is. I really think Sean can cause trouble with his movement. It's the big cage. I think he's going to have opportunities to find Aljo on the feet. Aljo leaves a lot of openings. He's a wild, it's his nickname, Funk Master. He's a funky striker. Everything comes all goofy, not technical at all, doesn't have great power. It's slow, it's unorthodox. And I think all week he's been talking about how he believes he can hang with Sean on the feet and he could beat him striking. But obviously he's going to mix in the wrestling. He's been saying that. So I do think there are going to be parts of the fight where he tests Sean on the feet. And I think Sean will be able to tag him in those moments, and then Aljo will want to wrestle. And I think the movement's going to be... I think it's going to be harder for for Aljo to grab a hold of Sean than he thinks it's going to be. Now, if he gets a hold of Sean and he gets him to the ground, obviously Sean's just got to survive and try and get up if he can, or survive until the next round. But I do think he can cause issues, and I think Sean can get him out of there pretty early. I'm going Sean O'Malley, Suga Sean O'Malley. I don't have much to say other than that. I guess, I mean, I kind of do have more to say. I could talk about this all day. But just in the Sean fight, in the Henry fight, there were points on the feet. Obviously, Henry never hurt him, but he was tagging Aljo up. He landed a big head kick. If Aljo's having to eat shots like that against Henry Cejudo, who is a short, not long reach non-striker, like the dude's the primary wrestler. Obviously, he's solid everywhere. He's got decent striking, but the striking has never been like the forte of his game. And if he's out there tagging up Aljo, I really think Sean's gonna be able to find the chin. The under 4.5 is sitting at -200. I do think that's probably pretty solid if Aljo gets a hold of him. I see Sean having a hard time staying alive on the ground over the course of 5 rounds. I mean, I do think there will be opportunities if he can survive for him to be on the feet and land big shots there and get the finish, like I said. But if it is rinse and repeat and Sean really can't get anything off and Aljo's not giving him any space on the feet, I see Sean having a hard time surviving the whole 5 rounds. I do think Aljo gets him out of there at some point if the fight is taken in that sort of direction. Obviously Sean, his biggest path to victory is the knockout here. So I do think that's what he'll be looking for, and I have a hard time seeing Aljo being able to take those shots if Sean's landing them and it's looking good for him. I see Aljo having a hard time surviving that over 5 rounds, so I think that's good too. But speaking of that, well, I'll just read these off first. The Suga money line +200, Suga inside the distance +340, Suga KO +275. I don't think they're bad little pop shots if you're on the same side as me. If you think that it's a possibility and you want to take that shot, it's not bad. And then Suga Sean decision sitting at +700. Sitting at +700, it's not a bad little shot. I think there could be a scenario where on the feet Sean is maybe he drops Aljo once and he's not able to get him out of there, and he's doing good work on the feet. But there's always points where Aljo gets him down and isn't able to, and Sean's not able to find the finish, not able to keep working on the feet, and Aljo gets the takedown, is able to hold him there for parts of the round, or maybe Aljo wins a round holding him on the ground and he's not able to find the finish either. And Sean's winning minutes on the feet as well. I think there could be a path where it's a decision as well. And to be honest, I think the same thing for Sterling. It could be going like that. Sean doing well on the feet, maybe he hurts him, but Aljo winning minutes on the ground, and it's just more. And he's landing ground and pound. He's got the backpack. He's trying to find submissions, and he's winning minutes that way. And it goes 5 rounds. I think maybe there is a shot. It's +700, so I'll sprinkle on that. I think it is unlikely. I think one of them finds a finish. That is the most likely scenario. But I don't think at +700. What is the Aljo one? Because I mean, they're not awful shots. The odds are so high that it's never like a bad little $10 bet. Just because of the odds. Where's decision? Sterling by decision. +325. Not as good. So the Sean one +700. I might throw like $10 on it just because of the +700. But yeah, I do think there is a finish in this one. So that under 4.5, not too bad at at -200. But yeah, I mean, I talked so much about that fight. I could talk about that fight in the Amanda Lemos one forever. Or the Amanda Lemos one. The Zhang Wei Li one. She's the champ. Yeah, I'm so excited for this fight. I've been waiting for it for such a long time, ever since it got announced, ever since Sean beat Peter. Aljo's been on a tear. Man, I'm so excited. The co-main event's great too. Drop a like on this video. Go check out my recap and my matchmaking video from yesterday and the day before. and then check back Monday. I'll have a recap of this. We'll talk about what actually played out on this card, if I was right, if I was wrong. So yeah, drop a like, subscribe. See you guys Monday. Peace out.